Hello students, today we are going to see the sixth chapter, My Childhood. Let us see the introduction to the lesson. This is Abdul Kalam's biography titled Wings of Fire, and the chapter My Childhood talks about the childhood of APJ Abdul Kalam. He was the President of India and a great scientist too. APJ talks about his upbringing, his parents, and siblings. He tells us about his friends and all those things that influenced his childhood. Let us see the chapter. His father's name was Jainuddin, had neither much formal education nor much wealth. Despite these disadvantages, he possessed a great innate wisdom and a true generosity of spirit. When I say innate wisdom, innate is inborn quality or the feeling, and generosity of spirit is his soul sought to help others who were ready. He had an ideal helpmate in my mother, Ashyamma. EPJ's mother's name was Ashyamma, and she used to help his father. I do not recall the exact number of people she fed every day, but I am quite certain that far more outsiders ate with us than all the members of our family. So, this is the picture of mother and a small boy, APJ Abdul Kalam. So, here mother's name is Ashima, and she used to help his father. And it is said that he is not remembering the exact number of people she used to feed every day. And so many outsiders they used to eat with the members of the families. We lived in our ancestral house, which was built in the middle of the 19th century. It was a fairly large Pakka house made of limestone and brick on the Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. So this is where the place where APJ Abdul Kalam belongs to. It was Rameshwaram, Mosque Street, and they were having a Pakka house, and it is said it was made of limestone and brick. My austere father used to avoid all inessential comforts and luxuries. However, all necessities were provided for in terms of food, medicine, or clothes. In fact, I would say mine was a very secure childhood, both materially and emotionally. Here, APJ is trying to tell us about his father and the childhood. His father was is an austere fellow. Austere means a simple, strict but severe. And he's saying that he was having a secure childhood, a safe childhood. And he's saying that in fact, he would say that he was like both materially and emotionally. Father used to provide all necessities. Materially is the materials, clothes, food, medicine, etc. Emotionally means love and affection which one gets from his family. So Abdul Kalam's family was a simple family, but there was no scarcity of the things like food, medicine, or clothes. For reasons I have never been able to understand, a sudden demand for tamarind seeds erupted in the market. I used to collect the seeds and sell them to provision shops on Mosque Street. A day's collection would fetch me the princely sum of 1 anna. So here Abdul Kalam is telling us about the time or the period when there was a sudden demand for tamarind seeds, and it was the time of Second World War 1939. And that particular moment there was a demand of tamarind seeds in the market, and then Abdul Kalam used to collect the seeds of tamarind and then sell it into the nearby provision shops in his own Mosque Street. And then after whatever the collection used to come with him, that was a princely sum. Princely sum is a generous amount and like of 1 anna. A 1 anna. Anna is an old Indian coin and it was worth for 6 paise. So Abdul Kalam used to earn 6 paise, 1 anna out of the selling of that tamarind seeds. My brother-in-law Jalaluddin would tell me stories about the war, which I would later attempt to trace in the headlines in Dinamani. When the Second World War broke out, that particular time, Abdul Kalam and his own village, they were not able to find out any news about the war. because that place was completely separate, isolated. But brother-in-law Jalaluddin, he used to tell stories about the war to Abdul Kalam, and then Abdul Kalam used to read these particular stories or headlines in the weekly or the daily, which was known as Dinamani. It was in Tamil language. Rameshwaram was a small island town far away from land, so it was not affected by the World War in the beginning. But after some time, India had to join the war and combined with the Allied forces. Then a state of emergency was declared in the country. So, as per earlier Abdul Kalam said that his town, it was a isolated town far away from land, so there was no effect of the World War in the beginning. So he used to listen the stories of World War from his brother-in-law. Then after he used to read it into the read from the Dinamani, that was the weekly. But now, as it said that now after some time, India was compelled to join the war, and it was forced to join the Allied forces. So when we are talking about Allied forces, they are the armies of UK, USA, and Russia during Second World War. So India has to join this particular Allied forces. Then there was a state of emergency was declared in the country. The first casualty came in the form of the suspension of the train halt at Rameswaram station. The newspapers now had to be bundled and thrown out from the moving train on the Rameshwaram road between Rameshwaram and Dhanuskodi. So till now there was no effect of World War into that particular small town, but now it happened that India joined the Allied forces and there was a state of emergency. And when there was a state of emergency, the first thing happened that there was a stoppage. There was a stoppage at Rameswaram station, the train stoppage, but now that stoppage was cancelled, and hence there was the train. First of all, it used to stop at Rameswaram station, but now it goes. So now what to do with the newspaper, because newspapers bundle used to come by the train, and APJ Abdul Kalam and his brother-in-law, they used to collect the papers and they used to distribute. But now what happened, as the train stop was cancelled, the newspaper now it has to be bundled and thrown out from the moving train. And when it was thrown out from the moving train, it used to fall between the Rameshwaram and Dhanuskodi. That forced my cousin Samsudin, who distributed newspaper in Rameshwaram, to look for a helping hand to catch the bundles, and as if it naturally, I filled the slot. So Samsudin was the person, he was the cousin, he was the person who distributed newspaper in Rameshwaram, and he was searching for a person to help him and to catch the bundles as if, and it happened that naturally Abdul Kalam was the person who filled the slot. And when I say filled the slot, that means he was the person who was fitting into that particular plan easily. So Samsudin helped me earn my first wages, and that particular was considered as the first wage of Dr. Abdul Kalam. Every child is born with some inherited characteristics into a specific socio-economic and emotional environment and trained in certain ways by figures of authority. I inherited honesty and self-discipline from my father, from my mother. I inherited faith in goodness and deep kindness, and so did my three brothers and sister. Every child in the family, when the child is born, it has some inherited characteristics of the father and mother, right? And into a specific socio-economic and emotional environment, the child is trained in certain ways by the figures of authority. Here, the figures of authority is parents, father and mother. So here Abdul Kalam is talking about his own inheritance, that he inherited honesty and self-discipline from his father, and from his mother he inherited faith in goodness and deep kindness. And as Abdul Kalam, he learned all these things from his parent, and the same thing was learnt by his three brothers and sister. As children, none of us ever felt any difference amongst ourselves because of our religious differences and upbringing. In fact, Ramananda Shastri was the son of Pakshi Lakshmana Shastri, the high priest of the Rameshwaram temple. Later, he took over the priesthood of the Rameshwaram temple from his father. Now, Abdul Kalam is talking about his life the life's main part, the influence of his friends on his life. And his one of the friend, Ramanatha Shastri, he was the son of Pakshi Lakshmana Sastri, who was the high priest at the Rameshwaram temple. And it is said that as a children they were ever felt any difference among themselves about the religious differences they were having, and they had a priest son as a friend. And later on, when Ramanatha Shastri, when he grew up, he also took over the priesthood of the Rameshwaram temple from his father. Arvindan, the second friend, went into the business of arranging transport for visiting pilgrims, and Shiva Prakashan, the third friend, became a catering contractor for the Southern Railways. So this way, Abdul Kalam was having three friends: Ramanatha Shastri, Arvindan, and Shiva Prakashan. All three were coming from the Hindu religion, and hence he is saying that as a child they were never having this kind of things in their mind about the religious differences. During the annual Sri Sittarama Kalyanam ceremony, our family used to arrange booths with a special platform for carrying idols of the Lord from the temple to the marriage site, situated in the middle of the pond called Ramatirth, which was near our house. So, Abdul Kalam's family was engaged in a special business of arranging boats. These particular boats were arranged with a special platform so that the idols of the Lord was kept on that platform. Then it was carried to the place where uh, the marriage site, and it was situated in the middle of the pond, and it was known as Ram Tirth, which was very near to the house of Abdul Kalam, and that was the business of the family. APJ says that they listen to stories from the Ramayana and the life of the Prophet from their mother and grandmother as bedtime stories. So they listen to stories of both Hindu gods and Muslim gods. There was no differentiation on grounds of religion. When they were small children, they were having stories and bedtime stories, and it was always told by the mother or the grandfather, and the topics were always Ramayana or the life of the Prophet. So they used to listen the stories of both Hindu gods and Muslim gods, and there was no differentiation on the grounds of religion about the stories. The new teacher could not stomach a Hindu priest's son sitting with a Muslim boy. In accordance with our social ranking, as the new teacher saw it, I was asked to go and sit on the back bench. I felt very sad, and so did Ramanatha Shastri. He looked utterly downcast as I shifted to my seat in the last row, and the image of him weeping left impression on him. One day it happened. The new teacher came into the school, and when the new teacher came, he was an Orthodox Hindu family, and he was a person who could not stomach this, could not tolerate, could not bear that a Hindu priest's son he was sitting next to a Muslim boy, and that is why what he did, he asked Abdul Kalam to go and sit on the back bench, and Abdul Kalam felt very sad. He felt very bad about this, and same way Ramanatha Shastri, and Ramanatha Shastri, he was like utterly downcast, very much sad on shifting of his friend on the backside on the last bench. And even Abdul Kalam noticed that Ramanatha Shastri was weeping when he was leaving to the next bench. After school, we went home and told our respective parents about the incident. Lakshmana Shastri summoned the teacher and in our presence told the teacher that he should not spread the poison of social inequality and communal intolerance in the minds of innocent children. He bluntly asked the teacher to either apologize or quit the school. So after going home, the children they told their parents about the incident. And Lakshmana Shastri, who was a priest, he called the teacher. And in the presence of children only, he told the teacher not to spread the poison of social inequality and communal intolerance. And he told bluntly Straight away he said to the teacher, either apologize, say sorry, or you can leave the school. On the whole, the small society of Rameshwaram was very rigid in terms of the segregation of different social groups. My science teacher, Siva Subramaniam Iyer, he thought, and though he was an orthodox Brahmin fellow, he was having a conservative wife with something of a rebel. He did his best to break social barriers so that people from varying backgrounds could mingle easily. Rameswaram, though it was a small town, a small society, but still they were having a very good quality into them, that they were never allowing any kind of orthodox rituals or traditions allowed into the society, and they were always living unitedly all together. And Siva Subramaniam Iyer, the science teacher, though he was an orthodox Brahmin and he was having a conservative wife, but he used to break the social barriers so that people from varying background could mingle easily and join each other. He did his best to break social barriers so that people from varying backgrounds could mingle. I used to spend hours with me and say, Kalam, I want you to develop so that you are on par with the highly educated people of the big city. He used to always encourage Abdul Kalam to do his best in his studies so that he can sit with the high profile society. One day he invited me to his home for a meal. His wife was horrified at the idea of a Muslim boy being invited to dine in her ritually pure kitchen. She refused to serve me in her kitchen. So one day, Sriva Subramanian Iyer, he invited Abdul Kalam to have a dine with him. And the wife of the sir was horrified because the idea of a Muslim boy being invited to dine in her pure kitchen, she refused to serve him. Siva Subramaniam Iyer was not perturbed, nor did he get angry with his wife, but instead served me with his own hands and sat down beside me to eat his meal. His wife watched us from behind the kitchen door. So when he went to the sir's house, wife, she was angry and she was standing behind the kitchen door. But Siva Subramaniam Iyer, he served him with his own hands. He sat beside him to eat his meal, and the wife was watching everything behind the kitchen door. When I was leaving his house, Siva Subramaniam Ayers invited me to join him for a dinner again the next weekend. Observing my hesitation, he told me not to get upset, saying, once you decide to change the system, such problems have to be confronted. So again he was invited for dinner for the next weekend, but now APG was hesitating. But Sir told him that not to get upset because once you decide to change the system, problems are going to come. When I visited his house the next week, Subramaniam's Ayer's wife took me inside her kitchen and served me food with her own hands. See the change now. After a week, when again APJ Abdul Kalam went to the sir's house, wife, she took him inside her kitchen and she herself served the food with her own hands. Then the Second World War was over and India's freedom was imminent. Indians will build their own India, declared Gandhiji. The whole country was filled with an unprecedented optimism. There was hope everywhere because now India is free. India is going to have its own nation. India is going to develop on its own, and hence Gandhiji declared that Indians will build their own India as per their own wish, and hence this is where the Second World War was ended. APJ asked his father to allow him to go to Ramanathapuram, which was the district headquarters for higher studies. In reply, his father told him that he knew that APJ needed to go away so that he can move ahead in life. He gave the example of a seagull which flies away in the sky all alone. Does not have a nest. It means it does not have a home of its own as it keeps on flying from one place to another. Here we are talking about seagull. Seagull is a bird. APJ Abdul Kalam asked his father to allow him to go to Ramanathapuram for the further studies. And in reply to this, father, he said that he knew when Abdul Kalam wanted to move ahead in his life, he has to go away. And that is why he gave the example of a seagull which flies away in the sky all alone, does not have a nest at all. It means it does not have a home of its own as it keeps on flying from one place to another. And he quoted Khalil Gibran to my hesitant mother. He said to mother, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts." So here, Abdul Kalam's father, he told to the mother that she has to allow the children to go from the place for further studies, because children, they are not your children, but they are the sons and the daughters of life which is longing for itself. Life needs to grow, life needs to develop, and hence they have to move from one place to the other. They came through you, but not from you, right? Children, they came from the mother, but they does not belong to mother. And then she has to give them their love, but not the thoughts. Parents can give love to the children, not thoughts, because they have their own thoughts. Children, they have their own thoughts, and they have to develop themselves as per their thoughts and thinking. And hence, this is how Abdul Kalam's father convinced mother to send her son away from them for the further studies. And this is how Abdul Kalam's life was influenced, right, from the parents. And this is how we have seen that how he has talked about his childhood from his friends, from his parents, and all those things that influenced him during his childhood. I hope you have understood the chapter. Thank you.